Welcome to Running Polls.
I'm Maren and T.
And I'm T Statman.
If Coach ever heard what we were actually thinking,
or drinking,
we would definitely be running.
Leave the bats in Stillwater. Carrie Everly just threw her first career no-hitter.
This is a hustle play right here by Statman. And she gets in just under the tag.
She drove that ball out deep to left center, and we've got a brand new ball game.
Statman just not pulling the trigger on that. Looks like it could have been slightly low. And with 2 strikes, that's one you have to protect on.
Hey everyone, welcome to Running Polls. Today's guest, from my childhood, we played rock band and had food with a light bulb from the Easy Bake Oven. Growing up as kids in between softball practice, we had Maddie Westmoreland. She started off at Indiana, where she was first team All Big Ten, and the academic team, can't forget about that. And then ended her career at Texas Tech, where she was academic All Big 12. Welcome. This is crazy. Full circle.
It is truly full circle, but thank you guys for having me. I'm really excited. It's crazy that we're both graduates and we're done. Like,
we're adults.
We're adults now. No more Easy Bake Oven.
We didn't talk for a very long time, mostly because we realized we had a phone number conundrum, that I had the wrong number under. So you know how on an iPhone you can have multiple phone numbers for somebody?
Yeah.
So I was texting her number, but for whatever reason, I had a wrong number of somebody also under her contact that I thought was her sister. And I texted, I swear, Maddie's correct number. But then this was 4 years ago. And then it said, "This is Chloe." And then I asked Maddie for her number, like, more recently. I was like, I swear this was her number. Like, that's so weird. And I have her right number. And then I text her again and she's texting me back. And then that Chloe person 4 years later says, "Who is this?"
I don't even know. When you screenshotted that to me, I was like, who is Chloe? Like, is this like an alter ego moment? Like, what the hell?
I was like, did she change her number? I don't know if it's some glitch in the iPhone that's also texting, because I have her dad, her mom, all under her contact. So it's not like the phone is also texting your dad and your mom every single time I send you a text, right?
I don't know.
I hope not.
I'd have to ask them, but shout out to Chloe if you're out there.
Well, I'm glad you guys figured it out.
So you ended your career at Texas Tech and you transferred from Indiana. So tell us about that whole process, because obviously every single person goes on their own journey when they play college sports. So
I think honestly, I was either like the first year or the second year where like the new rules of the transfer portal were in place, where it made it like so much easier. You could literally go to your I think you could honestly go to your advisor and just get signed off and then like get ready to go. But I finished summer classes at Indiana and I just kept thinking about it. It was like a week before school was supposed to start. And I was like, life is too short for me to kind of stay in this middle lane. And, you know, I'm not really happy here. So I want to experience something different. And so I decided to put my name in the portal. And Texas Tech was like one of the first schools to kind of pop up. The coach at the time actually DM'd me on Instagram, like slid into my DMs, as you would say. So that was kind of crazy, but I thought it was really cool. And yeah, I went on a visit there, loved it, and decided to spend my last 2 years or 3 years with COVID there. So it was a great time.
How was that with going to tell your coaches that you were gonna, hey, I'm gonna leave and I'm putting my name in the transfer portal?
I feel like it's always like those tough conversations, you know what I mean, that you're just like dreading to have, you don't want to have, because at the end of the day, like I was and I still am very appreciative of Indiana and my 2 years there. And but yeah, I remember I like sat there and I was like, hey, like I had like the hey girly like text message moment. It's like, hey, so I'm leaving, and I would say it did kind of come as a shock, but it was like 5 minute 10-minute conversation. Yeah. And I was like, you know what? I'm ready for something different. So yeah, it was interesting, but an important conversation to have.
Did you talk to like any of your teammates or anything leading up to making that decision? Did anybody know?
If I'm being honest, I don't think like anyone really knew, which was kind of crazy because like I said, I went to summer school the first full 2 terms. Like we were literally about to have like I remember we were about to have like a welcome and like meeting.
Were you doing summer workouts too?
Yep, I was doing full summer workouts. It came as a shock for me too, because I was ready to, spend year 3. And then just after like thinking about it for a while, I was like, well, I do kind of see myself leaving. So after I did tell my teammates and stuff, it initially was a shock, for sure, just because it was so sudden. And I think too, like I literally had such a short turnaround. I literally had like a week or so to figure out like where to go to school because school was starting. So I was like, I had a little bit of a rush in the transfer portal, but yeah, I think it was quick and it was sudden, but I think my teammates understood.
Well, at the time, I remember I was at Softball America and your name popped up and I was like, oh my gosh. So from the media perspective, I was like, oh, this is huge. And at the time, like Texas Tech was kind of a program on the rise, right?
Mm-hmm.
They had a couple good years. And a lot of attention was starting to lean there in the Big 12. But for you, I know that, I mean, once you put your name in, like anyone can reach out to you. So coming off the years that you had, were you just bombarded like with emails or DMs or was it a little quieter because of the time of year?
It was crazy. I will say, I actually have like a funny story. So I was so overwhelmed by the amount of emails and calls, which again, I'm beyond grateful for. It was truly such a cool moment to feel like, wow, like there are a lot of schools out there who like are interested, and it was really great. So I was so overwhelmed at one point. I actually I had 2 puppies at the time, 2 golden labs, and I went on a call. I was like nonstop on calls for days, and I went on this call and I left the door open because I was so like mentally like so busy with these calls and these emails. And so I left the door open and I was like on this phone call with this guy from like Ohio University, and all of a sudden my golden labs, which are puppies, they're like months old, they are like literally like running everywhere, like all over the road. And like it was just like, it was so crazy. Like they were lost for like 15 minutes. Thankfully this like elderly couple picked them up, but that just goes to show I was like so overwhelmed at the time with phone calls that my dogs literally like left and they were like gone. And I was like, what the hell is going on right now? But yeah, it was crazy, but thankfully they're back and they're safe. And I'm a good dog parent, I promise. Full disclosure. I'm a good dog mom.
Were there any schools that reached out to you that like you would turn down to go to IU that came back around?
Well, it was crazy for me though. So Indiana was actually like my first official offer.
Oh.
Like ever. So I really like growing up, like the recruiting process was actually not the best for me personally. I actually had a really hard time recruiting. And so Indiana was like my first like official offer. So yeah, coming to a moment where like in the beginning I was really not recruited like at all, like let's be real, and then going in the transfer portal and then being recruited like crazy, like a lot more.
Yeah.
That was definitely a different experience for me. I was like, I'm not used to this.
So you make the decision to go to tech, and it was a little chaotic.
Mm-hmm. Yep. That is a great word to explain it.
It's a little chaotic.
Uh-huh.
So
Definitely.
how did you handle that, knowing like, oh, I'm at a new program for me, but holy smokes, what just happened?
Yeah, it to me was, it was just a crazy experience. I went in there and, you know, every transfer student can relate. You're in there for like a fresh start. You're in there. And I think one thing as a transfer student that you really hope for and you really want is just like a long-term coach. You know what I mean? Like you want some sort of consistency and some sort of like normalcy, I guess. You know what I mean? Because I had 2 head coaching pairs at Indiana.
Mm-hmm.
I was recruited by a different head coach, and then they got fired like right in coming into my freshman year. So I was used to a coaching change at the time. Little did I know that I would have 2 more head coaching changes at Texas Tech, which was wild to me. So I would say obviously like my career and my experience definitely is abnormal and unique to say the least, and one that I was not expecting, but I think it's an experience where I gained like a lot of growth for myself and a lot of strength that I didn't know I had, because you're forced to deal with it.
Yeah.
How many head coaches did you play for total in your career?
Total, I technically played for 4. As a whole group, I was involved with 5 different head coaching staffs. So it was like it was like just a crazy experience. Just, it's, to me, with my 5 years, it was almost like every year someone was different.
Yeah.
But yeah, so truly a crazy experience, to say the least.
Wow. I can't imagine that.
Yeah, it's like you can't
Yeah.
really start like a relationship.
No.
You know what I mean? And like, it's like, what do I say? Like, hags? Like, how do I like?
Have a great summer. Maybe see you again.
Yeah. So it was interesting having 5 different coaches. I don't know if I set a record or anything. Like, please let me know if I do.
We'll keep a running total.
Yeah.
How was having that extra year?
I was a DH, so I was chilling. I was like basically a bullpen catcher / DH. So I was living my life, like, while everyone was, and plus like I did not play a lot. So to me, torturing the body, I was like, I couldn't really relate because I didn't play much.
What was your workouts like? Because some programs are more heavy weights versus running. Some are more running versus weights. What was your program?
So my first 2 years at Indiana was like extreme heavy running, like heavy running, heavy lifting, long distance running, like crazy. I was not ready for that. But I will say that when I got to Texas Tech, I was like, oh, like, this is nice. Like, the strength coach at Texas Tech, I think the max we ran was, I think, like 60 yards in like one full distance, you know what I mean?
Oh, not even a gasser, just 60 yards.
Yeah, because they did not believe in running long distance for softball.
Right.
So I was like, I'm not gonna argue with you about that. I was like, I totally agree. Like I was like, great job. But definitely the older that I got, I would say I was starting to feel it. Like
You're a
I was
catcher.
definitely, yeah, and I was definitely less, the weight that I could go definitely got less and less. And I was okay with that. You know, I feel like when you're like an older athlete, or at least for me, I kind of accepted that point. I was like, you know what? Like the bar is good. Like bar's good. Let's put a 2. Like I felt more comfortable being okay with the fact that I wasn't lifting as heavy as I was my freshman and sophomore year. And for me, especially my COVID year, like my 2022 last senior year, I was like, let's just maintain it like as best as we can. Like, let's just try to prevent as many injuries as we can. And for me, that honestly just meant like not taking as many extra reps, stuff like that. Like, or not going like all out on the weight room. You know what I mean? Like, because I see people all the time like push and push and push, and then they mess up their back, or they mess up their knees, or they mess up their shoulders and stuff like that. And for me, I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna maintain at this point.
Right. I've seen people slip a disc lifting in the
Lifting?
yeah, squatting. I
What
don't
were they
remember what we were
doing?
doing.
Oh.
Slip a disc. I don't know.
Oh my gosh, that sounds horrible.
Yeah. But it's really
Mm.
interesting to hear the different philosophies that different programs have, because I know U of A's evolved over time with what they were doing, because by my senior year, we were lifting pretty heavy during season, but it was very like active and it was manageable. It didn't feel like we were lifting heavy.
Yeah.
So it's very interesting to see what different programs do, because everyone knows that Oregon just squats. Like we all know that they just lift, or at least they
Yeah.
used to.
Yeah. It's different. It's interesting how different it is. Like some people that I know will PR, like try to PR every week, like at some colleges, which sounds crazy to me, because like we never like tried to PR ever. Like at Texas Tech. But at Indiana, we had like testing, I think at the end of the semester, every semester. Yeah. So it's just interesting how they're all different, but we all like, of course, play the same sport.
At Indiana, you were all Big Ten, like all Big Ten freshmen, all everything. And then your playing time changed when you got to Tech. So how, I know like you talked about how you were trying to maintain, but like how did you handle that, like going from playing every day and to seeing like that time slowly diminish?
Yeah, it was definitely, I would say at first it was really hard for me, like very hard. Because for me at Indiana, I played every single game, and I had so much playing time there, but my mental health at Indiana was really bad. So I kind of came from a switch to where, you know, I transferred to Texas Tech, and mentally I was in so much of a better state. I really loved the university, which I also love the University at Indiana, but you know, like I really felt more at home at Texas Tech, and I really enjoyed it there. And mentally I was at a better state, but kind of flipped to where, you know, I didn't play a lot. So it was hard for me mentally. And I think especially my first 2 years, I depended like a lot of my self-worth and a lot of my identity into like my rewards and my stats and stuff like that. So I think I had to kind of learn things the hard way, if you know what I mean. And I had to learn about myself and my identity, and I was kind of forced to, whether I liked it or not, at Texas Tech, where I didn't play much and I didn't get those awards like I did at Indiana. So it was definitely a change for me. My first year was extremely hard, but I think my last 2 years, I kind of came more of an acceptance of it. And it was definitely better my last 2 years. But my first year here at Tech was extremely hard for me.
Your story of using the portal, like for your health, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like you needed to be in a better headspace. You needed to feel better about you. Shows like kind of what the portal is for. Like in a day and age of mental health and a lot of people talking about, the importance of being happy and not struggling every day. That's just my opinion of it. Like, I feel like that's what it's for. And not necessarily loyalty or, winning or like, where do I get more playing time or, things that, a lot of theories that are on the social medias are being tossed around. How do you feel about that?
Yeah, no, I completely agree with you. And I think that I don't really like to use like my story in a sense, you know what I mean? But also I feel like for me, transferring still, even though I did not play much, even though my softball career wasn't traditional and I faced a lot of success in my early years and not really in my final years, I think transferring for me was the absolute best decision of my life. Like, mentally, I'm in so much of a better state here than I was at my previous school. I love Texas Tech. I have so much pride representing this university. And for me, personally, like, that's why I'm so thankful for the transfer portal. And I think my kind of approach to it and the way I look at it is like, if you commit to, let's say like someone commits to like a boss, like when they're 13 years old, and then once they develop a better sense of self and once they start to get to know themselves better, and they realize, oh wow, like the boss and I don't really share like shared values or like things like that, or like, oh, me and the boss don't really click that very well, but there's a new job opening where they pay you a lot better and there's a lot better benefits, and it's you know what I mean? Like, in any situation, no one would ever tell you, oh, well, you're not loyal. Like, no one would ever say that to you. You know what I mean? So for me, like, if people want to treat softball like a business and treat collegiate athletics like a business, then let's treat it like a business. Employees find better opportunities. Employees quit. That happens. It's not about being loyal. It's about finding the best opportunities for you. And like I said, like, T, like, we were kind of in a stage of our lives where we were committing when we were 13 years old. Like, no one knows what they want when they're 13. Like, you know what I mean? So that's kind of how I approach it, and that's how I look at it. So I'm all for the transfer portal, and I'm very thankful for the transfer portal.
There's this idea of loyalty that, social media and but the world has changed so drastically that my sister, she works in marketing in LA, and she says if you don't get promoted, then you find a new job within a year.
Mm-hmm.
That's how things are nowadays. And okay, obviously you don't want just people switching teams willy-nilly, that kind of thing.
Right.
But there's an idea of holding coaches accountable to being good coaches, good overall people who are developing the young woman. We do see, like, in social media, loyalty. The world doesn't work like, oh, you work at the same place for 40 years. It's not like that anymore.
No, it's not. I mean, look at me. I mean, like, I haven't stayed at I haven't stayed somewhere longer than like a year and a half, but that's not because I'm like just trying to hop from, job to job. It's because I know what I'm worth. And I know that I'm in some circumstances, I know that I'm worth more than what they're giving me. And I know that there are other people, like, for example, I'm going to use this because this was the most insane time of my life. So when I was at Softball America, I loved my job. I loved it. I got to literally go everywhere and get paid to watch and write about softball. Like, it was awesome. Well, I was visiting my grandfather in LA, and all of a sudden I get a text from somebody that basically told me, they're like, if the right person in the right job reached out to you, would you leave Softball America? I was like, depends. I honestly don't know what that job is or who that person is, but like, I'd be willing to have a conversation with anybody. He goes, okay, that's all I needed to know. You're going to get a phone call in about 5 minutes. And I swear, in the next 5 minutes, I looked at my phone. I got a phone call from Oklahoma City. And I was like, who is calling me from Oklahoma? And I answered the phone, and it was Patty Gasso. And she was offering me, she wanted me to be her SID. She had no information about salary. She had no information about anything. She just knew that she wanted me, and she started to recruit me. I did not play softball in college. I did not try to play softball in college. And all of a sudden, like, not only is the nation's like top coach like reaching out to me, trying to recruit me, she then started texting me like a recruit. And she knew that I was a huge Dodger fan, and the AAA affiliate is in Oklahoma City. And so then she started saying how she has season tickets to the Dodger games and I could use them. And like, she totally just trying to get me there. And so I had the conversation with the associate AD, and the pay was like a massive pay cut. And so I was like, I had to turn her down. But like, saying no to Patty Gasso is like, like, who does that? But yeah, like, I mean, that's basically to your point, T, is that like, there's always, it's not about loyalty. If there's, better headspace, better benefits, better, my husband's saying better money, but it's true. Like, the day and age of loyalty is kind of over.
But I do wonder, because obviously the grass isn't always greener on the other side. So I wonder what the satisfaction rate truly is for those who do enter the portal. Like, at the place where I'm at, the school I'm working now, I was there, then I really wanted to teach it. I don't know. I wanted to teach history. So I went to in-person school, and then I wound up back at the original school I was at. And I'm very, very happy with where I am. But I wonder what those rates are of girls who they're just like unhappy, maybe for playing time or just some other thing that doesn't really have to do necessarily with the coaches, that wind up regretting their decision to transfer.
Yeah. I mean, I think, look no further than, I don't know the story, but look no further than Miranda Ellis. Like, spending her first couple years at Oregon, following Mike White to Texas, and then sitting out a year, and then deciding to transfer to Oklahoma State. Like, I mean, you've got girls that there are plenty out there who are on their third school. Mm-hmm. And it makes you wonder. The other idea too right now is like NIL, right? Like, you throw that in there. I don't know what's happening at Alabama, but I know they've got 6 in the portal, and their pitcher's a queen and has a lot of NIL deals, I feel like. at least looking at social media, but I don't know who's getting paid more. I don't know.
But it's interesting about all the speculation with teams. And me and Maddie talked a little bit about things that really do destroy teams. Just in general, obviously we don't know what's going on in Alabama. But there's just like a few things that really destroy teams. Any sorts of drama, period between girls fighting, girls who are those who date each other on the team. There needs to be some sort of universal rule where you're not allowed to date your teammates. Because I've seen so many different softball programs who get blown up because of girls dating each other on the team. It happened, happened at Arizona. It
happened when you were at U of A.
Yeah, it happened there. It happens at many programs. It's just one of those things that you're like, but why does this need to happen?
Coaches can't, from what I understand, they can't say they can't dictate who you can and can't date. They can't tell you you absolutely cannot sign a contract. They can't do that. They can encourage it, but they can't force you not to.
So just like our hair color, how we can't, at U of A, we had some rules, you couldn't show tattoos. You can't have a natural hair color, because it would be very weird if coach was like, all right, don't date anyone on the team. Find someone in gymnastics, find someone in soccer, find someone somewhere else, but you can't date anyone on this team. That would be a weird conversation, right? Is that even a legal conversation that they can have with us?
I don't know. I don't think so.
Can that be a team rule where you're not allowed to date someone on your team?
I don't know. You two have more experience in this than me.
I think just my, I would say my biggest piece of advice right now for incoming transfers is kind of wherever you go, this is one thing I wish I knew. There is always going to be something happening. You know what I mean? There's always, I don't want to say always, but from my experience, there's always team drama. There's always been people who don't agree with coaches, and there's always stuff like that. So I think that would be just my biggest piece of advice is what you meant of the grass isn't always greener, is that I thought when I went to the transfer portal and wherever I went that everything that I didn't agree with or things that I didn't like would all disappear. And I would be rainbows and butterflies in a whole better situation at Texas Tech. You know what I mean? So I would just say wherever you go, there's going to be things that you might not agree with. You know what I mean? As a transfer, or things that you might not agree with everything your new coach said or your new coaches, or for me, my fifth head coach, you might not agree with everything they have to say, but that's okay. So my expectation of the transfer portal kind of fixing all of my problems, I guess that's one advice that I have, is that wherever you go.
Yeah, it's also wherever you go. I mean, women, when you get a lot of women,
you get more than 15 women. Some programs have 24 women. Maddie, you were talking about how Texas Tech's gonna have 28 next year.
Yeah, I think I'm pretty sure they can't bring anyone in.
Wow.
I don't know. Crazy. Yeah, so our locker rooms too, we only had two people, two super seniors leaving, and our locker room is only has 3 empty lockers, and there's a handful of people coming in, so that will be interesting. I think there needs to be a little remodeling, but yeah.
Well, what happens when you get a new coaching staff in? Do they have free reign to rearrange what they have? If they decide, can they cut people? Can they how does that, I don't know how that works. Because now Texas Tech is going through another coaching search. So whoever they bring in, are they going to be okay, well, this is, I've got 28 girls on this roster, but I
Mhm.
don't want
Right.
10 of them. So what happens?
That's a great question. If I'm being honest, I don't think that you can cut people. I don't think you can.
Can you ask people to leave?
I think you can have that conversation to kind of facilitate, like, hey, we don't really see you playing here. You know what I mean? But in terms of cutting people, I think you have to wait like the full circle year.
Interesting.
So it's very interesting. And I think it will be very interesting for the new coach coming in, because from my experience, every new coach that I've had, they bring in old players from their previous school. That happens all the time, everywhere you go. And they also bring in their commits, like from their previous school. They'll have them, commit to Texas Tech. So it'll be interesting because our roster, or their roster size, is so high. I don't even think they can bring any people in. And in terms of recruiting and committing, I don't know moving forward how they're going to work with that. So
There's no money to give at that point.
yeah, with COVID too. Like, I think some people have those 2 more years with the COVID year, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
So that'll be interesting.
I don't know who they're going to bring in. I've heard rumblings, but even at that, it's like, I don't know. I feel like, well, that conference is only going to be around as that conference, like with who they have for another year, I think, 2 years before Texas and Oklahoma leave for the SEC. But even with that, man, I don't know. Oklahoma, those girls are built differently. Like,
Yeah.
I don't.
Yeah.
I watch them play against some teams, and you're like, damn, like, what did they have for breakfast?
Their whole life.
Oh,
What
and
are
they're
the-
like the nicest people in the absolute world. So you can't
hate them.
you can't get mad. They're like the most incredible group of people, and like it's so great too, because sometimes they'll like ask like, hey, do you guys want to pray like after games? And I'm like, can y'all pray for us? Can you guys pray for us? Like, is this what this is?
Can you make the guy in the sky like us a little bit better today?
Yeah, like, can you guys pray for us to not get run rolled? Is that a possibility here? But yeah, jokes aside, they're such an incredible team, and they truly are like the nicest people, and like it's so cool to see. And you can't help but not root for them. You can't help but not want to see them grow and see them like continue this legacy. So it's incredible.
What is it like being on the field or being near the field when Jocelyn Allo hits?
I'll be like on the bench, and I'm like scared for my safety. So there's that. Like I said, it's incredible to watch. Her composure is so great, and her power. If I was a corner position and Joss, I would be in the outfield. I would be like Mario Super Slugger, like over the fence trying to catch it. Like, she's just incredible. And like I said, you can't help but root for like all of them, because they just take the game of softball like beyond anywhere, that we've really ever seen. So it's almost like you're watching history itself, and you're like, how far can they go? How much can they continue to push the limit? It's crazy to watch.
I think what they're doing is so good for the sport. Like, I've had this conversation with people before, and I have had the opportunity to go to the Women's College World Series four times. I don't remember. But I truly believe that like what the WCWS has become is is because of Oklahoma.
Mm-hmm.
And like whenever there comes the day where Oklahoma isn't one of the final 8 teams standing, like the audience is going to look a lot different. And so what they're doing for the sport is just so big and so important. And I know a lot of people like to root against them. They just want to see, you know, Goliath fall, right?
Right. Right.
I want to see like an 8 seed win. That's what I want.
I feel like even though like this tournament's been a start, there have been so many upsets already. Like,
oh yeah.
Like I think there were like 6 people who hosted who didn't make it through.
5. Yeah.
Yeah.
4. There's 2 super regionals that are featuring teams that were not hosting. So T's Wildcats are going to Mississippi State.
Yes, that was
I don't mean to laugh, but like,
no, it's fine. It's one of those things where we're like, are they gonna make the tournament? They did terrible in pack play. And then
like, people were saying Arizona had no business being in the postseason.
You know, and then
Really?
it's all about just like making postseason. Like if you make it, you have a chance. Surprise, like, yeah, they made it. Like it's fine. And then, you know, if you get hot in the right time, it doesn't matter what you did during season as long as you can kind of get to the tournament.
Right.
You just gotta get there. How we got there, we got there, okay? The committee, like, good on the committee.
Yeah, I think, and that was the argument that a lot of people made too, was that Arizona got in on reputation.
And look at where we are now.
And look at what's happening. Like, if they did get in on reputation, like, good for the committee. But the other one is Oregon State and Stanford. And I mean, Stanford went into Tuscaloosa and was like, we don't care. We don't care that we're in here. And I think that storyline with Alistair, like the last time her team was sent to Tuscaloosa was when she was at Minnesota. And Minnesota was ranked number 1 in the coaches poll. And everyone thought they were going to host a regional. And instead they got sent as a 2 seed to Alabama. And then she took a team who wasn't even, I mean, I think they were ranked 20 something, maybe Stanford. I don't know, but they kicked ass and took names. So, and now the whole team is falling apart. So, I mean,
yeah, this matchup is interesting because Oregon State leads the series 2-1.
Yeah. I mean, think about it. So between Oregon State, Stanford, Mississippi State, and Arizona, 2 of those teams are going to the World Series.
Right.
I didn't have any of them going to the World Series.
It's more fun this way.
It is.
Welcome to the kvetching corner. I could kvetch about anything. What do you want me to kvetch about?
Okay, so I have to complain about how old men tweet when people are transferring that student athletes nowadays are softies. And you know what I mean? How you see like old men, like not even like woman, like the subject, I feel like men, like the subject could not pertain to them by any matter, yet they somehow make it about them. Anyways, like how like these guys will will tweet like, oh, like student athletes nowadays just complain about everything and they're just softies and that's why they transfer. And I don't know, I just want to complain about that because first of all, like I was coached by my dad, so I'm not a softie. Like anyone who can relate to being coached by their dad, like we're not softies. But also like we played the game for so long, and we're very strong, mentally tough people. Like, and plus, like, T, playing for the Birmingham Bolts was no joke. Like, we played under a lot of mentally tough situations. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Um,
Old men.
it's just so funny to me seeing like these comments of like when people transfer, and instead of just like not saying anything, people will say like, you're just too soft, you're not loyal, you're not committed. And it's like, no, dude, like, it's, you don't even know the whole story, but you just want to go on your old Twitter page and tweet, and it's, yeah.
Are you surprised some of these old men even have Twitter?
Oh yeah. Oh, I'm like, where did you even come from? And it's always like the profile picture is like, it's like, come on, dude. Like, what? You're judging me? Like, come on. Oh,
Yeah.
well, and it was so funny too, seeing this whole Alabama thing, whole thing blow up, and like Alabama has transfers.
Yeah.
So like, are they against transfers?
You
Like,
can't leave Alabama. Like, it's a way of life.
But like,
I like
It's a way of life.
It's just like funny to me because it's like these people will be like, I love all of our transfers coming in. I'm so pro the transfer portal. And then when someone leaves Alabama, they're like, I hate this thing. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you can't play both sides. Because you know what? With all these people leaving, guess what they're going to bring in? More transfers. Like, that's just like, that's the name of the game. They're just going to bring in more transfers.
I'm trying to find some tweets from old men. Proves lack of cohesion on team and lack of leadership. Also shows that Murphy did a terrible job this season. I am a Murph supporter. I bet dollars that the Bama coach called out some of the girls and they took it personal, which they should have played like.
Which also is so funny to me because, like I said, like growing up with a dad as your coach, when you played bad, you knew that you played bad. Like, let's be clear, like we had parents growing up, you knew when you did not play well. So it's funny to me when people are like, oh, they just got called out. And it's like, we've been getting called out our entire life. Don't worry about that.
I feel like we could go on and on with like mean tweets.
Thankfully, when I like went and I was in the transfer portal, like I got no mean tweets. Like, I feel like if any old man were to tweet about it, they'd be like, Indiana had a softball team. Like, they would be like, thankfully I didn't experience it, but seeing other people experience it like today, it just sucks, and I feel for them.
And Alabama's on such a pedestal too. And then when Montana Fouts posted her post about coming back next year, all these people are like, well, that answers that question about all the transfers. I was like, I don't think so. But do you think that, oh, this is so bad to speculate, but do you think the post by Montana Fouts is kind of like a jab at the girls who are leaving?
I thought that 100%.
I thought that too. Yeah.
100%. And it took the attention away from the girls leaving and put it back on her. And then one by one, everyone's like saying basically the same thing. And then you've got, I mean, there's a tweet, someone should put her tweet on a t-shirt. Like, I mean,
already? I'll die on that hill. So bury, meet in Dixie, Sweet Home, Alabama, Roll Tide, and amen.
That is an Alabama thing. Bury me in Dixie, Roll Tide, and amen.
But it's very interesting because she did mention Coach Murphy.
True.
Is it defending him? Is there things that are obviously many people are crapping on Coach, but when that many girls are leaving, I feel like it could be an entire mixture of things.
Tia, did you kvetch about anything? Was that your kvetch as well? Your mean tweets?
No, yesterday I went to the dermatologist and I had 4 things removed. And in the lidocaine, they put epinephrine. And I had a reaction to the epinephrine and I was not okay. So I just sit in the office. Maren?
All right. What am I kvetching about? I have this 19-year-old coworker who just gets on my last nerve. And so, oh my gosh. Like every day, he's like going around trying to start shit. And he says something about me to somebody else. And I'm like, I haven't confronted him yet. But one of the other kids that works there is like, don't do it in front of everyone. But like, I'm like it's something, it's so stupid. It's stupid shit too. Like yesterday was like I give lessons and the night before, like one of the kids is supposed to text like all of the instructors their schedule of lessons for the next day, and I didn't get a text, but there was a check mark next to my lesson saying that they were confirmed. And so I was like, okay, how come I didn't get a text yesterday? And this kid goes, well, I texted you, so you're going to need to check your phone number in the system to make sure it's right. I was like, I get a text every day. Like, I know it's right. Everyone else has done it right. And so he shows me his phone to show me that he texted me. And I was like, oh, your area code is wrong. Like, everything else is right, but you put in a wrong number. And he was like, oh. So then he went around and told everyone I gave him the wrong number. I was like,
that's stupid. We're adults.
I was like, listen, I am 30 years old. I have a husband and a 2-year-old stepdaughter. I don't have time for your 19-year-old bullshit. Like, just stop. It's so dumb. And I don't get paid enough money to put up with your bullshit.
Well, thank you so much, Maddie, for being on the show. So,
Thank you.
Such a thrill.
This has been so awesome.
How can my dad and other people find you on social media?
How can the old men tweet at you?
Yeah, how can old men? I'm about to get like flooded with so many mean tweets. Oh, yes. Okay. What's my Instagram?
I don't know. I don't know what your Instagram is.
My Instagram is at Maddie_West with 2 T's. So MADDIE_WESTT. So yeah, you can follow me on there. I'm not really active on social media, but I have been retweeting lately a lot. So my Twitter. Okay, I made these when I was like 14. So my Twitter is at MADS and then West, but I decided to go a little bit crazier this time and have 3 T's instead of 2. So you can follow me on Twitter at Maddie West with 3 T's, or at Mads West at 3 T's at the end. So
give us a 5-star rating and subscribe to the Running Pulse podcast on your favorite podcasting service. Anchor, Spotify, Google Podcasts, and even Apple Podcasts. Woohoo! Please give us a 5-star review and leave a little comment so we know that you're listening. You can follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter at Running Pulse Pod and on our website at runningpulsepodcast.com.
Did you change the spelling of your name? Because in my phone it's
I
MADI.
did. So I did fun fact, really weird. I was like a freshman in high school. So stupid. Let's already start off. I was really like in a stupid mental state. And I was like, you know what? I want to be like a little bit edgier, but keep my name. So let's go with MADDIE instead of MADI. So I thought I was like really thinking there. But yeah, I did change my name a long time ago.